crying, which is fitting because I'm pregnant, so I'm either crying or yelling at someone all the time. I threatened to kill a man today. So, bring it back up, everyone. My name is Noel, and I attended the fifth show because I was still young and trying new things. And so I just was invited on the Facebook event, and I came, and I didn't know what it was going to be. It was just females telling stories from what I could gather. And so I came to it, and in the following, I thought it was great. And what was great about it was it wasn't professional or even attempting to be professional comedians or actors, or it was just like people being authentic, women being authentic. And so I found myself hanging out with these ladies like a couple weeks later, and they were scrambling to put together their second show. And they were like, "Do you want to tell one?" And I was like, "No." And I was like, "Wait, hold on, what's the prompt though?" And it was fear. And I was like, "I don't know, I have a story." And so I told a story for fear in November of 2012. And then I told another story, and I've told 19 stories. I'm sorry? Oh, record holder, no way. And so I get to not tell so many stories anymore because there are so many contributors, as you can tell, in the book and on the stage tonight. And so it's really really cool to be part of it. I'm the community outreach co-chair, which means I still get to be on the board. Without doing much. I coordinate things that are not related to our serial monthly shows, and so. But I'm really, really happy to introduce our next storyteller, who I am so proud and honored to be my friend. I met her at my house for the first time telling a story, and so it's so cool to meet friends when they're just hanging out in your living room eating popcorn and telling stories. And so this woman, Belue, she's so funny. She's just one of my favorite voices to hear and one of my favorite people to be around. And is she here? Oh, she's here. Great. Give a warm round of applause for Belue.
Oh my God, Noel and Lauren and Aaron and Stephanie, all of these people were this story that I ever went to, and they made me want to be a part of this. It was just incredible, and I'm still blown away. And please give a big hand for them being able to pull all this off and moving So I don't know why, but it seems to me that some of the biggest disasters in history have involved water. I mean, think about it. There was the great biblical flood. There was the Titanic, Hurricane Katrina, and mine and Jenny's first big date. See, we had known each other as friends for over a year, but something weird happens when you cross that threshold into dating. And all of a sudden, there's this intense need to impress the other person. You find yourself saying yes to things you would never agree to in your normal day. So when Jenny asked me if I liked to go canoeing, of course I gave her a resounding yes. Now, technically, I had been in a canoe once. It was in a pond about the size of an Olympic pool, with absolutely no current, and I think it was about this deep. So clearly I felt up to the challenge. So Jenny set this up where that we would have a tour guide thing. It was a sort of deal. They rent you the canoe, and they take you and your stuff, and they take you up the water, a few miles, whatever, and they dump you off, basically, and leave you to getting out on your own. So I was cautiously optimistic about this. So the big day comes, and we get there, and our tour guide, Eddie, he already has our canoe loaded into the back of his old rust bucket Ford, and he loads in the rest of our stuff, and we start to get in, and we're in the South, so you have to hesitate for a second, make sure you don't hear any banjos. Okay, we're good. Let's get in. So we get into the single bench seat, and so we take off, and we're going in this washed out trail of a road, and we're flying in this truck, and there's woods everywhere, and all of a sudden to the left, all the trees clear, and I have this great view of this rushing water that's paralleling us. Rushing water? What the fuck? I did not plan for this. I'm trying to be cool, so I'm like, so Eddie, that's not where we're going to be canoeing, is it? And he's like, oh yeah. All this rain, I reckon, has the creek up a bit. Then he goes on to tell me more things I don't want to hear. He says, yeah, it's been a pretty active morning. We've already lost it. We had a canoe and a kayak that got tumped over. He said, no, we haven't found that kayak yet. Shut up, Eddie. So he says, well, it's all right. As long as you ladies are good swimmers, it should be fine, right? Y'all are good swimmers, right? Well, I can feel Jenny beside me doing this, yeah. I didn't say anything. I was too busy surveying the rocky terrain we were flying over to see where I was going to land when I jumped out of the truck. So he says, all right, I'm going to give you a little bit of heads up here. He said, about a mile more down from where I'll drop you, there's going to be a split in the water. He said, you're going to want to stay left. Stay left. And paddle hard. He said, you don't want to go to the right. He said, that's what happened to them other folks. They got sucked in. Thinking, shit, Eddie, I already got sucked in. So we, all too soon, we're at the drop-off place. And I got to be honest, there was a moment as Eddie was pulling away that I had the most intense desire to run after him, like the scared little bitch I was. But then I looked at Jenny, and it's like, but wait, this is that early dating stage. This is the falling in love stage where you have mad courage like nothing else. So I put on my brave face, swallow all the bile that's accumulated in my gut. And with cooler in one hand and canoe in the other, we head off towards the ever-increasing roar of liquid thunder. But just to give a little bit of background here. Now, like I said, we had known each other for over a year before we started dating. And in that time, I had been around her in water, many times, both in pools and at the beach. And I knew that Jenny was like this sexy aquatic mammal, completely comfortable and at home in the water. And I was like this lumbering land dweller. I was that person at the pool. Camped out at the 4-foot level, beer in one hand, smoke in the other, being all cool. When the reality is, I didn't know how to do all those swimmy things that other people were doing. So you can imagine, as we pushed off into the current, I was just about as comfortable as a goldfish in a blender. But this weird thing happened. Once we got out there, it really wasn't bad. I was like, God, I'm kind of embarrassed that I was ever that nervous about it. It must have just been like some weird distortion of the sound or something. I mean, it took no time to fall into a nice, easy cadence of rowing. Besides, it was a beautiful day. It was like early November and not a cloud in the sky. Temps were like in the high 60s. It was so warm that when we pulled into a little covey to enjoy the picnic that Jenny had packed for us, we just stripped down to our swimsuits, climbed up on a big rock to enjoy the day, enjoy the wine she had brought. Yeah, I know, I'm a staunch beer drinker. And the lovely assortment of cheeses, not so much. But, you know, the things you do, right? So we sat there laughing, talking, flirting, drinking, and then finally, you know, with a nice heady buzz, when the wine's gone, we load into the canoe to finish out our trip. Well, I guess I'd fallen into some sort of lull. And the thing that woke me was the sound. It was like, what in the hell? I mean, it sounded like the bowels of hell were opening wide. And as I was wondering what it was, we rounded a corner, and it's like, oh, I see what it is. It's that damn split Eddie was talking about. And straight ahead is just like this quagmire of just broken trees and big giant rocks and stuff. But there's a clearly delineated left and right side. So immediately we're both like, left! You know, start digging into the left. Well, we're picking up speed right about now. And the boat is wanting to veer that way, but we're just like digging in with everything we have. The sound is loud, and we're glancing off rocks, and finally we careen off this one big rock, and I look up just in time to see this 6-foot waterfall we're heading right for. There was no time to do anything but brace for impact. As our boat first went up, it started over, and then bam, it wedged hard between two rocks. I looked up in time to see the shorts I was wearing earlier go flying over my head, disappearing into the swirling froth, never to be seen again. Somehow, we and the rest of our gear managed to stay in the boat, but we were taking on water. So it's like, Jesus, are you all right, Jen? Are you all right? And she's like, yeah, I think, are you? And I'm like, yeah, what do you think that fucking dyslexic hillbilly meant his other left? How did it have been worse? So we're just trying to catch our breath, and Jen's like, okay, we're going to have to get out and try to get this boat off the water. I'm like, I wonder who the hell she's talking to. I was perfectly content to sit there till the helicopters came to save us. She starts climbing out of the boat. She's like, seriously, you got to get out and help. I can't move this boat with you in it. I'm like, let's see, it is real late in the afternoon. There's a real good chance nobody's coming. We don't know how far it is before we can, get to help. So it wasn't like we had a lot of viable options. So reluctantly as all hell, I leave the safety of that boat and climb out into this frigid water. And, at this point, we're swimsuits and tennis shoes, and the water's freezing. Plus the force. I mean, it was like you had to wedge a foot down in the rocks, just make sure you don't get swept away. So we pull the cooler out, put it up on a rock. It's like, all right, I got it. All right, the free hand, we're trying to free this boat, and it's like, God, it's wedged in there. So after several long, hard minutes, finally it popped loose and promptly took off without us. I'm still standing there trying to process it. Jenny has jumped in. She has swam it down, climbed up in it, and commandeered it to the other shore. I'm just like, my girlfriend's a superhuman. So she's yelling something. I can't hear anything, but I can clearly see what she's doing. She has pulled a pack of cigarettes out of the day pack that is still actively draining water. And she has a lighter that was submerged the entire time, and she's frantically striking at it. I can see the cigarette bending under its own weight of wet tobacco. And I'm like, hello, I'm still out here in possible danger, hanging on for my life. And it occurred to me that if the roles were reversed, I would have done the exact same thing. I'm not kidding, it warmed to my heart. But it's like, it didn't take her long to realize this was a futile effort. So she dumps the damn boat over, gets the water out, and loads everything up. And she starts working her way back up to me. So I got the cooler, and as soon as I see her, get close, I just take the cooler. Because priorities were in the South. We get that cooler safe. We got the cooler in the boat. So now Jenny's off to the side, and she says, so just, this is nonchalant, truly, this is something, like a real thing. She says, well, just jump in and swim over there to the, to the shore, and I'll just come pick you up. I surveyed the expanse of jagged rocks I was supposed to clear, the swirly froth that already ate my shorts, the tremendous distance to the other side. And I started shaking my head. No, ma'am, no, it's not going to happen. I will stand here until I die of natural causes. But I'll be damned if I'm going to jump to my own death. So I see her over there, and she gets this weird look on her face, and it's like this just occurred to her. You do know how to swim, don't you? You just hung out there like a nasty accusation. I'm like, no, not so much. It's like that point in the relationship, you feel your impresso meter dipping. And then there's me. She says, okay, all right, well, get ready. I'm going to start working my way there. So she starts working her way against the current, and before she's even near close, she gets shut down. So it's like, okay. She takes another tack. She comes in from a different angle, and she gets a rowing start, and it was just sad. At this point, it's just sad. By this point, I'm thinking, sexy aquatic mammal is great, but I really need, like, a burly girlfriend. I need somebody with some muscles to save my ass off this rock. So she says, you just need to walk out further on the rocks. I'm like, further out on these slippery-ass rocks is not of interest to me. But at the same time, I realized you're fading fast. I can see this. So I get out there as much as I can. And on the next time, and I could tell, I could look in her eyes, this is it. I just got to close my eyes. So I just took a breath, kind of like tonight, and just I just closed my eyes. And when she got close, I just took a flying leap and landed awkwardly but safely into the boat. Bam! So, son of a bitch, of course, we found out as we go on. It's like we were 3 minutes away from where we could have gotten some help. It turned out, so we pull in and we purple-legged and nasty, all freaked out. We get all of our stuff and muster what's left of our pride, which is pretty much nothing. And we have to walk the gamut past all the guys that work there. They're like kind of snickering at us and stuff. But we made it to the car where we had the foresight to pack some warm, dry clothes and, more importantly in those days, a fresh pack of cigarettes. And while it was a bit of a disaster, we realized that neither of us panicked. We had managed to work together. Well, mainly Jenny worked. But, I stood right there on that rock. She always knew where I was, and I think that's really important early on in the relationship to develop that kind of trust. But either way, we had survived to row another day. Thank you guys for listening.